strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal?
That was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Prograis. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting flat? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Ryder. What's going on? I mean, that intro, I don't know why that dude in the end is so mad. Like, what is he so mad about? Like, you know what I mean? But thanks for those joining me live. Those will be joining us on the archive. We should be having a really good roundtable show today. 198 episodes. We're just 2 weeks away from the 200th episode and not that far from the 4 years now. So we appreciate everybody that tunes in and supports the show. Of course, we're joined by Joe B from Ringside Reporter. You know, tune in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now if you haven't already. And hit the like button, by the way, to show support. Hit the bell. That way you're notified every time to go live on Sundays or when something like this, like the roundtable, pops up. Crystal from Women Crushing It Wednesday. She'll be joined as well by Christine, who fell off there a little bit. I don't know what happened. I think Thanos must have like snapped his fingers a little bit ago or something. You know, I don't know. But shout out to Crystal. And you can check out their show on In the Ring with Christine here on YouTube. Of course, Dave from the Shoe Shine. Make sure that's the name of the channel. Check out a show and all that good stuff, man. They do the Shoe Shine on Mondays, so and other days. He goes live, he does DJ stuff and everything too. Like he's doing a little bit of everything. And of course, Gail from nyfights.com. Make sure it's right there under her name. Make sure you visit the website and all that good stuff. It's nyfights.com. Very good articles, and they cover the sport very well. And Gail will be at the fight. She covers them from ringside and everything. So there you go. All right. A lot to talk about. All right. First, to start with Pacheco. He takes care of Sukeli. 6th round. Brutal body shot. And I think he looked good in the fight, actually. The question now, given how he looked, given how he beat Sukeli, what would you like to see next for him? Is he ready for, like, let's say a Canelo, or do we got to slow our roll a little bit there? Maybe a Munguia, or is that still too far off? Where do you personally think Pacheco is at the moment, and what would you like to see next for him, Beeb?
I love the Munguia fight. I think anyone would. I think it would be a great style matchup. For me, I thought the jury was still out on Pacheco. He seemed a bit sometimes disinterested in some of these fights. He was kind of just going through the gears, it seemed to me, particularly in the last 2 performances he had. Didn't look bad, but for me, he just wasn't moving the needle. But in this fight, he not only moved the needle, he just like snapped the needle off its foundation, because to me, he at least overexceeded my expectations. I thought this had the potential to be a distance fight. Sukeli is definitely, a durable guy, crafty guy, experienced guy, and he knows how to, extend guys. He's done that throughout his whole career. Danny Jacobs, and others, right? So I thought that, he rose to the occasion. This was, I would say, the best opponent thus far in his career, and I believe that we probably haven't even seen the best of Pacheco. Right? Because I would argue, and this is just me speculating, maybe he needs the big challenges. Maybe the bigger the challenge is, maybe the better he'll be. I love guys that are tall and long, but can also hold their own on the inside. because a lot of times opponents will look at a guy like Pacheco and say, well, obviously this guy's going to try to keep me on the outside at the end of his long punches. But he can grind it out on the inside, shorten up shots, and he's a wonderful body puncher. So if not Munguia, I wouldn't even hate a Derevyanchenko fight, because you can say what you want about Derevyanchenko in the last fight against Mbili, but that fight was competitive up until the point he got seemed to have gotten injured. So I think that will be another test, because I have a feeling Munguia probably won't take this fight next. I think he'll probably be looking for something bigger, with all due respect. But Pacheco, he may have to take on someone like a Derevyanchenko, and then Mbili would be a great opponent. And as I said already, Munguia. So hopefully they can get him the fights that he needs to continue with this momentum.
Dave, talk to us. What's next? Or what you would like to see next for Pacheco? What level do you think he's ready for right now?
Well, I appreciate Joe what he said, because I think what I've seen from Pacheco prior is that he fights to the level of his opposition. And now that things are getting closer to him potentially, being in the conversation about fighting the likes of a Canelo Alvarez, or even some more popular names at 160, I think he impressed the prior week. I really think he impressed. I'd like to see him against somebody who's been in the ring with Canelo Alvarez. My first pick would be Jaime Munguia. And my second pick is going to be Edgar Berlanga, who's going to be fighting him next week. Somebody along those lines. I think it's going to be difficult to get Diego Pacheco a matchup against somebody like Christian Mbili, who's ahead in line. Although I'd love to see that. We'd love to see two top contenders go at it before fighting Canelo, but things aren't working like that anymore, right? I'd also like to see him against somebody like William Skull, who's also a mandatory to Canelo Alvarez. But things aren't working that way these days. So maybe he can attract the attention of somebody who's already been in the ring with Canelo Alvarez, so we can have something to gauge him, somewhere to gauge him along his progression. Somebody like the likes of Jaime Munguia or Edgar Berlanga. We'll see. Hopefully Edgar Berlanga doesn't get retired next Saturday. That's my picks.
All right. Crystal, now that you've seen, Pacheco, he wins by stoppage, good body shot. Where do you think he's at? And what would you like to see next from him?
I think we have to remember the lad is 23 years old, right? He's still developing. He's still making his way through the rankings, if you will. So because of that, I think to put him in there with a Munguia, I think is wonderful. That would be my choice. Berlanga, I think we're past that now. But potentially, I guess, if you really want to. But I do like the Munguia fight. I think if he was to fight Munguia, I think we'll get a real true picture of where he truly at, right? I think this last fight do show us that he is in the mix. And considering what Joe said, how much he truly wanted, right? So he's still using those body shots. And I think Munguia is the best to do next.
Right. Okay. All right. Gail, how do you feel about Pacheco right now? What would you personally like to see next from him?
The body shot was incredibly impressive. Ringside, you could hear that in the top row when that landed. It was unmistakably uno, dos, adios for Sukeli. Impressive. I was even more impressed by the fact that Pacheco took his time, boxed smart. He's got so much height and reach advantage. And when he faces somebody more dangerous than Sukeli, he needs to employ that. So this was a golden opportunity for him to employ those skills, put them to use, and test himself a little bit, and then move in for the kill, which he did. He's got a terrific fan base in LA. Eddie Hearn claimed he wants to bring him back in a bigger venue, but he will need the right dance partner to do that. And I do think it's got to be Munguia. But I don't think I want to see that fight next. Give Pacheco another fight to test him, to make sure that what we saw wasn't a one-off or a mirage. Tip of the hat to Team Batman Boxing in the chat, who suggested Bekham Murtazalie, Beck the Bully. Now, if Eddie and Oscar want to play nice, maybe they put that on a Munguia undercard fight, and double up. depending on how Berlanga performs against Canelo, you know, that's potentially an option because assuming Berlanga loses, he will need to rehabilitate himself and may want to test. I think that would be a terrific matchup. The great thing for Pacheco is he's only 23 years old. He's got some time. He's got some options. He didn't have a mark on him. He barely cracked a sweat over the 6 rounds he fought this past weekend. I've liked him ever since his early fights. He didn't look that great in his previous fight, and it got people worried. But you know what? He was a father as of all of 10 days when he had the McCalman fight. So, you know, the parents remember what those first few weeks are like. We can give him a pass, given his performance now that his daughter is almost 6 months old. So he's got a lot to fight for. I like what I see, and I'm not convinced he even has his man strength yet, and that is pretty damn scary.
Right. Christine, Pacheco, stop it, 6th round against Sukeli, vicious body shot. As Gil said, she heard it from all the way to the top row. What did you make of his performance, and what do you want to see next for Pacheco?
I think he looked fabulous, and I'm going to echo some of the panel. You know, he's only 23. He can take his time. You know, I personally am not excited about a possible Berlanga match after, you know, he fights Canelo. My first pick, I do like Munguia, but he would be my second pick. My first pick is Boo Boo. I would like to see him against him because they're both long, they're both rangy, and I would like to see him against that kind of opposition. But if I had a fantasy matchup, and David Benavidez would come back down, I would actually like to see that matchup. But you know, we don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to stay where he's at? Is he going to come down? Whatever. But I definitely think Boo Boo over Munguia, and then Munguia. I'm very impressed with him. I think he's doing great, and I think they're moving him well.
Well, I guess the only obstacle with the David one, I don't even know if David's going to go back down. It's number one.
Yeah,
but also
like I said, my fantasy when I'm laying on my couch thinking about matchups that I would like. That's the one that pops to my head.
But, you know, that would be a little bit like the Klitschko brothers fighting each other. You know, they're pretty close.
Well, they didn't object to fighting each other at one time.
No. And Diego has said he would, but I think that's a long way down the road, maybe at light heavyweight.
Yeah, and you know what? It may never, ever happen. It's my fantasy.
But it is fun. Hey, that's right. Fantasies can be anything.
Absolutely.
That's right. There's dudes in the chat fantasizing right now, but that's besides the point. Here's the thing. So, I echo everybody. I thought Pacheco looked good. He actually performed better than my expectations. And my expectations were actually pretty high, but he did even better. I think for the most part, most people have kind of moved their position with Pacheco and where they feel he should be. He is. So, I understand he's only 23, and I understand there's no hurry, but you know, Teofimo was 23 when he beat Lomachenko, and then was his early 20s when he got some big fights. It's not out of the question that he can potentially be in the mix with some big fights. I want to see the Munguia fight. It's a contrast of styles, and Munguia's going to bring it. It's going to be very aggressive, and Pacheco's going to be boxing. And it's going to be interesting. It's a fight that's going to be interesting to see who wins. And I would pick Pacheco in that fight. I think Pacheco beats him. So people could think whatever they want about that, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Look, we got to talk about the one and the only Monster Inoue. All right. I mean, not that I want to joke about it at all. Like I hope the guy's all right, but Doheny, he hurt his back or something. I mean, what is going on? How do you dude threw his back out with taking body shots? Okay, this is crazy. And he was and Doheny's a tough dude. He's never been stopped. He's been in many fights and 7 rounds, and that was all she wrote. Some even think Inoue carried him. I don't know whether they did or he didn't, but I think it was a great performance in a tune-up or stay busy fight for Inoue. But now they're talking about Arum. I saw an interview. Arum talking about potentially Inoue coming to the States, to America. The monster. Godzilla's coming to the US of A. Right? Hey, Dave, what are your thoughts about Inoue coming to America? Do you think that's a good move? Are you for it? How do you feel about it?
Oh, no, I absolutely love it. I didn't get a chance to see Inoue when he did perform in Las Vegas. If I'm correct, you guys remember, maybe it was during the pandemic.
Yes.
So he has been here in Las Vegas. I love the idea that they're going to piggyback Nakatani as the co-main event. I think it's perfect. Nakatani trains primarily in California or exclusively in California. He loves getting ready for fights here. It's just natural drive from Los Angeles over to Vegas as the co-main to get everybody ready for this mega showdown. It's just a little disappointment that eventually that fight may happen in Japan. Will most likely be a super mega fight in Japan. But I love the idea of giving American fans an opportunity to see one of the top pound for pound, if not number one pound for pound fighter in the world, to see him right here in Las Vegas with potentially, maybe his biggest threat in the sport of boxing, Nakatani on the same card. I love it. I'm excited to see that next year. I think they speculate could be in April, spring, perfect time for it.
Beeb, so obviously no one's against Inoue coming to the U.S., but do you think it's the right move? How do you personally feel about it?
Well, we talked about this earlier, and I think Inoue's got that style. He's got that swagger about him where I think fans, particularly in the West Coast, I think would take to him. I like Manny Pacquiao became very popular here because I think a big part of that was because he had a lot of the Hispanic fans that really liked him and his style. And I think Inoue can possibly not 100% replicate that, but to some degree replicate that type of adulation from fans like in Nevada, California, and even in the Texas area. I just think, and Dave, you would know because you go to the fights a lot in California and Vegas and stuff. So you know the types of fighters that the fans get behind.
Oh yeah, seek and destroy Mexican style.
Yeah, and he has that style about him and that aura about him, that confidence about him, and he's just got the way he carries himself is it's not an arrogance, but it's just he just has a special kind of confidence that he just feels as though like he's stone-faced in there. Nothing that happens in there will rattle him. And he just has a way of just being able to figure out what's in front of him without much concern. He's got that poker face throughout the whole course of the fight. Even when he gets hit with good shots, he gets up like nothing's ever happened when he got knocked down against Neri. So I just think that he could potentially cross over. So I actually do like the move a lot.
Okay. Gail, how do you feel about the move? Because there's two fruits of thought. One is, hey, he's a big star and he don't need America. And the other one is maybe he could grow his profile even more. But how do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, Inoue has fought in the United States 3 times, including in Carson, exactly the same venue we just saw Pacheco at. He fought Antonio Nieves and absolutely blew him out. Gail, first chance to see Inoue in action in person, and it was damned impressive. He fought in the bubble, and then he fought again a few months later. And he fought in a fairly small venue. He was at the Cosmopolitan, if I recall. So if you missed your opportunity, y'all late to the party. Can there be justification for bringing him to Las Vegas? Yes, because Japanese fans will travel with the ability to make up the gate differential with the betting and tourism and, all the auxiliary money that comes with it. Yes. Should he have his marquee fights, such as against Nakatani there? Oh, hell no. That'd be silly. He can make a ton of money, bringing a ton of people in Japan. That is a fight the Japanese boxing public deserves to have at home. The truth is, American fans, truth is we aren't worthy to have a big fight. If we're gifted the opportunity to see him and he can't sell out MGM, T-Mobile, or even Mandalay Bay at 12,000 people, shame on us, shame. But the truth is he's not a marquee name beyond, our sphere of hardcore, right? He could walk down the street in any American city and not one person would look at him. Not one. So it's a super fan, hardcore fan, discerning fans fight. I appreciate what Bob Arum's saying, what he's trying to do, and maybe it's something that he personally wants. Truth is, Inoue does not need us. He does not need us. How many of us woke up in the middle of the night to watch that? How many of us have woke up at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast to watch live? Yeah, the hardcore will do that. Will they all go to Las Vegas? I'm not entirely sure.
So if you're involved in this, like let's say you're part of his management team, do you keep him in Japan?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
All right. Christine, what do you think it's a good move for Inoue at this point to bother coming to trying to become a big star in America, or is it good enough in Japan?
I agree with Gail. The hardcores know who he is, and he's amazing. As a fan, would I love it? Absolutely. I love, as much as I love Tokyo, it's not in the budget anytime soon. So to come to Vegas would be fabulous for me personally. As far as him, like Gail was saying, if I was on his management team or whatever, the money is in Japan. The fans are in Japan. He's selling out stadiums to the rafters. He does not need us, so I think it comes down to him. What does he want? Is it about legacy? Does he want to be known worldwide, or is he happy going to work, getting his paycheck, and then going home? I don't know why Bob is thinking to bring him, because honestly, like Gail said, a lot of people don't know him. Is he gonna sell out the arena? Is he going to make the money that needs to be made? I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know what the ulterior motive is or what they're trying to do, but I don't know. If I was part of his team, I would go where the money is and where the fans are.
Okay. Real quick, JXV88 with a 199 super chat. We appreciate it. Who didn't lower PPV prices? Canelo, Mexico, Puerto Rico. There you go. Shout out to you. I think that's a reference to Turk Al Sheikh stating about lowering the pay-per-view prices for realities and pay-per-view cards and stuff like that. Crystal, how do you feel about Inoue? Do you believe from a business, let's say from a business sense, for his team to bring him to America, or should he just stay in Japan?
If I was his manager, I'd keep him in Japan. But here's the thing. Do we know if he have a contract that say he have to fight so many in the States? Because if I recall correctly, Bob only deal with the stuff in the States, right? And he have other people who deal with the stuff in Japan. So I think bringing him to Las Vegas is maybe a selfish move by Mr. Arum. But I also feel like Gail is 100% correct. If we, as the fans, don't get out to this card, we're missing out. Mm-hmm. We're missing out. This is a great card to go to and be ringside, because I think the card itself will be magnificent. Probably one of the best that we have this year from the top rank, right? And I think the long run, we're looking at that Nakatani fight. I think that's what we're looking at in the future. And it definitely deserves to be in the dome in Japan. Absolutely.
I've gone back and forth with it, but I understand he's fought here before, but I do think the pandemic kind of derailed it a little bit when they were trying to like really push it. They had this cool promo like the Monster, and then the pandemic hit and it kind of derailed it a little bit. If what I'll say is this: his visibility has increased a lot, even though he's fighting in Japan right now. Not in the U.S. He has more visibility as a fighter now. and especially after the Fulton performances, being Fight of the Year, and just a lot of people are just more aware of him now than they were then. I actually believe that Inoue can have the same type of impact as a foreign fighter coming to America. That I see no reason why he can't have the same impact Gennady Golovkin had. I see no reason he can't have the same impact that Manny Pacquiao had even. I just don't see a reason. I think he has a very exciting style, and with the right opponent and with the right marketing, no one watches this guy and says, "Oh, I never want to watch him again." No one. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I never want to watch that dude ever again. Why'd you make me watch this guy?" Never. If they watch him, they will keep watching him, and I think he'll now. Granted, what's different about him and Gennady Golovkin and Manny Pacquiao is that he's already making crazy money in his own country, where Kazakhstan doesn't have a big boxing market, and the Philippines doesn't have the wealth of Japan, right? So that's the big difference. Like, this guy did 20 million gate at the Dome, the Tokyo Dome. That is amazing, right?
Well, what about the fact too that Triple G and Manny also spoke the language, and so they were able to relate to some of the fans. And I mean, Triple G even made it a point to speak Spanish to relate to the other fans, the Mexican fans that were going to spend the money as well. I think that also plays a big part, in my opinion.
It could. Yeah, I mean, Triple G didn't speak English really good. I mean,
well, their English improved. Manny and Triple G's English improved.
Absolutely.
More they stayed here and interacted. So
yeah.
Plus, Triple G was based in the United States, training, had so much support structure around him to make up in the initial years for that language difference. The other difference with Pacquiao and Inoue is Pacquiao made his debut at a much younger age in the United States. He had a lot more time to build the legacy here, and he didn't have the platform in the Philippines that Inoue has in Japan. Right. So if he wanted the bigger fights, the bigger platform, we're talking 20 years ago. And the boxing universe was a very, very different thing than it is now. Yeah. If Inoue was, set back in 2001, yes, I think the path would have been very similar to Pacquiao. But we can't walk in that reality. We are
absolutely. Absolutely. It was very important back then to be known here in the U.S. And as we see with Inoue, it's not as important. Like, I think that because it was important, they learned the language. They did what they had to do. And he's like, I'm going to come and fight, and it is what it is. So it definitely is different times, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Japan does have a very strong economy. They don't necessarily, he doesn't need to come to the U.S.
Absolutely.
And another big difference, Manny Pacquiao had some legendary fighters. He had Barrera, Morales to begin with. Marquez wasn't that well known when Pacquiao fought him, but still, the Mexican fan base got to know him very early on, and so he had in a way you kind of look at the landscape, you're like, well, who could he fight? There's no Barrera or Morales.
Well, I'll tell you who he can fight, and this is a tremendous upside opportunity for Jesse Bam Rodriguez to show up next April in Las Vegas ringside and start presenting his case that the two most talented, biggest names in the smaller weight classes have an inevitable showdown. Now, Jesse Bam Rodriguez said it's a fantasy fight, but it's definitely something on my radar. While you hear Inoue reluctant to move up the featherweight, now he's entertaining a fight with his other Japanese co-part who's 118. Now's the opportunity for Jesse Bam Rodriguez next year to show up and say, hey, I'm fighting at 118 this year. I'm a hop skipping away from fighting at 122.
Look, Bam's a great talent. He is. And I'm sure his star will shine bright at some point. And maybe a rivalry like that will help. But I guess he's not. Bam isn't the attraction that a Barrera or Morales were, though. You know what I mean?
But we're talking about a completely different pie. A big pay-per-view now. If someone in those smaller weight divisions got 500, 700,000 buys, could fill a 25,000 seat arena. That'd be, oh my God, that's huge. Pacquiao was, fights were attracting millions on HBO, millions. I mean, we're not even talking about the same situation. Boxing is no longer a top marquee sport as it was 20 years ago.
Facts.
It still is in Japan, where Inoue is the most famous athlete in that country, second only to Shohei Ohtani. Only second to Ohtani. Think about that. Think about where Bam Rodriguez or any other opponent rates here in the United States. And we'd be thousands of people down the list. I am not saying that to denigrate Bam Rodriguez's talent. I would go anywhere to see him. If Bam wants to fight Inoue, he needs to do it in Japan, and that's where the big money and the big audience is, and that's where he earns his chops. Not here. They would have trouble filling StubHub, honestly.
Oh wow.
Oh, I agree 100%. Bam will have to go over to Japan for that mega fight. And it's a legacy fight.
His brother has done it. He's been there. He knows what it's like. He's got Japanese management. Taiken will take care of him. That's a big ass fight.
Yes, I agree.
I'm still curious though. I want to see them try it because again, they could always go back to Japan, and the fight obviously is going to be broadcast over in Japan anyway, so people will still be watching it worldwide. I would like to see it. Put it on ESPN Plus too, and it's gonna go everywhere.
I think it's a wasted opportunity. Inoue is not going to fight forever. He is closing in on the last few years. I am positive of his career, or certainly the height of his career. He cannot afford to burn a fight. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. And what a cool thing to do to be able to go to see him in Japan. To me, that is the bucket list of all time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
curious.
if they do it though, because he's not taking a lot of damage right now.
No, he's not.
I mean, he's blowing through these dudes.
Other than to his wallet.
Well,
he fights here, it would be a favor. I think.
I guess that here's the thing. People talk about like Dana White. He said, "Oh, I invested $20 million in the Sphere. I'm down $20 million to." Well, anyways, down $20 million if he comes here because he's giving up that gate. He's giving up that gate money, and who's going to pay him that? Like, I don't know. I don't think any casino is going to give him $20 million as a site fee. If they do, great, but it's going to be interesting. But you never know. Sometimes fighters have ambitions, and it may not make sense to us. And maybe Inoue just wants to fight in America, because he wants Eric Thiesaw to go see him live. Maybe, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. But if he fights here, I'm there. I'm not going to miss an Inoue fight at this point if he does come to America. Let's go ahead and proceed here. Speaking of popular fighters in their country not fighting in their country. So Tim Tszyu versus Bekham Murtazalie. They are going to have a fight, of course, for the IBF. They're both technically Russian, by the way, by blood. But Tim Tszyu was born in Australia. So it's
not. I'm just going to stop you to say this. Bahram's an Uzbeki. He is not a Russian.
He's not Russian?
He may speak Russian, but he's an Uzbek. Okay. He's an Uzbeki.
I love Gil with the fact checks. She only makes us better. She only makes us better.
From the former Soviet Union.
But they do speak Russian, although Tim has admitted that.
So why did Koch just say, I hate the fact that my son's going to fight a fellow Russian?
Yeah, they speak Russian. But,
maybe because they go back to the old Soviet, kind of correlated to the old Soviet
Union kind of guy. So
it's not that I want to blame the former Hall of Famer. I'm going to blame Tszyu for this misunderstanding. You know what I mean?
Take the L, man. Take the L.
Just take the L. Come on.
Be better next time. It's okay.
But here's the thing. So it's going to be in Florida. By the way, I interviewed Glenn Jennings, and they said PBC wanted to take it to Minnesota, but somehow they were able to get it to Florida. Thank God. I don't know what it is about Minnesota over there, but whatever. It's cold.
Contract.
They have great venues over there.
Yeah. So it's gonna be in Florida for what it's worth. Maybe taxes, I'm guessing. So like there it is. I think it's a great fight. This is the fight that they were negotiating that made Turkey really mad because Turkey wanted he wanted Tszyu to stay on the shelf till February to fight in Saudi. So it is what it is. Christine, what do you think of the announcement? What do you think of Tim Tszyu coming to Florida to fight a or not a Russian, but a fellow Russian-speaking fighter?
You know, I know Tim's your guy, and I like him. I do like him.
He's all our guy. Come on.
I would have much rather see the rematch with Fundora, but I'm going to say Bahram. This is a good matchup because this is really going to test him. You know, Bahram is heavy-handed in both hands. Tim cannot be at the end of his punches the way he was with Fundora. But then again, he can't smother his punches either because Bahram has those sneaky punches that come from anywhere. You know, I think his best bet is going to stay mid-range and move his feet. I'm excited about this fight because this is going to really show us who each of these guys are. But like I said, I did want to see the rematch with Fundora, you know, with a little bit different instruction for Tim Tszyu in his corner. You know, I think that he could beat him. But, you know, again, that's my laying on the couch fantasy matchup.
So as far as the Fundora fight, well, Fundora's been ordered to fight Crawford. Is Crawford going to fight Fundora?
I don't know. You got to ask his team.
Okay. Well, I mean, because that's the reason nobody could do a fight with Fundora because
I know. Like I said,
I'm just saying.
That's my little fantasy wish it would happen again, the rematch.
You gotta let people dream on this show, man. You know.
Thank you. He does it. He's a dream killer.
Gotta let people dream.
I want to let. I'm dreaming about Errol Spence.
We're dreaming, man.
I want Errol Spence to make a comeback and beat the tall guy over here in Fundora, and then he's back in the mix. That's what I'm dreaming about. But we don't know what's going on with Spence, so it is what it is. Gail, talk to us. What do you think of this fight? And do you have an early prediction?
I like the fight. I like it a lot. Yeah, whoever mentioned that it's probably in Florida because of tax reasons is absolutely right. I mean, that's the way it's going. We just had this discussion. A lot of people got educated about this following the whole saga of Brian Norman Jr., which we'll talk about later. But there is a building fan base in Florida, and we have to credit ProBox for a lot of that. I like the fight. I think that the matchup will be even for this reason because Tim Tszyu is normally very active, and because of his injury, he's had to be on the shelf a little longer than he's accustomed to. So I think he'll be fine, and I know he's chomping at the bit to go. I need to check and see when Murtazaliev had his last fight, and it was, actually, that's right. He did fight Jack Kulke earlier this year, but it was in Germany, so it was sort of off the radar. But he hadn't had a fight since 2022 before that. Over and over, we see it. Activity matters. You just cannot stay sharp even as much as you're in the gym. And I think we're going to see something similar to what we saw with Crawford and Madrimov, although I think Tszyu will be more aggressive as far as his power punching. Crawford didn't really need to do that to win the fight. I still like the matchup. I still like them both getting back in the ring. Nothing to hate about it.
All right, okay. And what do you make, Gail, about him being asked by Turkey to wait till February to fight, and that's why he got mad?
I love Tszyu's attitude, which is, Turkey, I don't need you. I don't need you. I'm not interested. Now, Tim doesn't have exactly the kind of FU money that Canelo, Crawford, and Inoue have, and the chops to tell him no. But I still like the fact that he's done it. You know, I am not one of those people who thinks that His Excellency is the savior of boxing. I have not kissed the ring, and I am not, writing articles, of praise. If he wants to do these fights and pay these guys, I love the fact that some of these guys are getting big paychecks because it's called prize fighting for a reason. I love what this represents as far as the sports washing, the control, and the arrogance? No, I do not. I do not. I don't think it's short term. It's great. We're getting these great fights. Who doesn't love it? Everyone's can't wait until October to finally see this Better Be a Beevil showdown. And we also have the fight in Wembley, Dubois and Joshua. Going to be a lot of fun. That's great short term. Long term, there's a lot of problems with this. What happens to the development fighters? What happens to the monopoly? We've seen what happens in UFC. Some people don't care. I don't love it.
And women's boxing.
Where we are. And women's boxing. And you know what? Okay, so they throw Sky Nicholson on a card so they can say they've got women's boxing.
Whoop-de-doo.
I mean, how do we think that happened?
We know how that happened.
Yeah, we all know how that happened. That's a discussion for another day. God bless her. I hope she's getting a big paycheck out of it.
Whoa.
They signed the contracts and they got signed.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm interested in all seriousness? So are they going to be able to do the weigh-ins like they do all the time, or are they going to have to cover their whole bodies up when they're in the weigh-in? That's what I want to know. I just
I
a little too deep on this
that.
one.
I bet you do.
You're a little too deep on this one. It's a family
no,
show.
I'm not saying
family
do
show.
some Ebony Bridges shit. I'm just talking about just the way an athlete goes in a weigh-in. Because over there, if a woman
maybe behind the veil. Who knows?
A woman shows her belly button over there. It's like oh my god, what I mean. So that's what I'm waiting, because I watch WWE. The women have to cover the whole body, all the way from the wrist. all the way down
wow, okay. I did not know that. I apologize.
you know what I mean? And if you're they got to cover everything. If you're boxing over there too, and if you want my honest opinion, it's bullshit. Why can a woman wear shorts to box?
Right.
And have a sports bra on? Like if the men don't have a shirt.
So they have to wear tights. So she's gonna have to wear tights and a
No.
turtleneck.
They do. They absolutely do not. Ramla Ali was on the Joshua Ruiz 2 undercard standard fight. Okay. So could a female fighter get away with the OnlyFans spray paint weigh-in wearing a thong? No. That's not going to happen. It'll be reasonable accommodations.
No Trinica Johnson wet T-shirt, nothing like that.
Right.
Take it easy.
This is
now
a
who's
nod.
D-style. Now who's fantasizing?
Yeah, no, this is to appease the critics, and that is it. And Eddie Hearn gets it, and he probably had to pull Turkey aside and say, "Listen,
is this a virtue signal, Gail? Is this a virtue signal?
Thank you. That's the perfect phrase. Virtue signal. Thank you. That's all I need to hear. You're absolutely right.
I'm seeing pictures of the fight from Saudi that they're not showing torso. I'm just saying maybe that's a coincidence. It is what it is. But I'm just saying it is what it is.
Belly button gate.
Hey, they're gonna have to cover the full torso.
Take it easy, kid.
But anyway, it's whatever to me. Whatever. The card's been deep in the undercard anyway. So Crystal, I think I remember the topic. Tim Tszyu is heading to Florida.
Tim Tszyu is going to the Florida. Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Great. I think this will be a one-sided fight. I think Tim Tszyu will take control. I think we'll see some ring rust from the other lad, Bekham. I think this is a stay busy fight for him. I think that he was wishing he could get the rematch himself with Fondor, and it don't work out right now, right? So I think he will take this fight, and I think it will be one-sided. I think Tim Tszyu will rebuild, if you will, he confident, and he will get the win that night and move forward. And who knows right now what that forward will be, right? Because we don't know if the same person will be holding the belt or not.
Okay.
Will he fight a Crawford? Will he fight a Pandora? I'm not sure.
All right. Well, if Crawford's going to fight again, I mean, I keep hearing rumors from Eddie Hearn. I mean, Eddie Hearn keeps saying, "Oh, he don't want. He only wants Canelo, and that's it." And so we'll see. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That the Turkey said that too. He doesn't even know he'll fight again. So who knows what's going on?
If Turkey said it,
I mean,
well, I don't see Bud holding hands with Mr. Uncle Turkey.
I don't see him kissing rings either.
No, I don't think he holds hands with the fighters, does he? I think he's with the promoters.
Well, maybe Shakur, but that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
They were sitting together in LA. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
They were.
But Joe Bede, talk to us. What do you think of this fight? Is Bahram just going over to just hand Tim Tszyu the IBF belt? Here you go, or does he have a fight in his hand?
No, I think Tim Tszyu is going to have to earn it. I think he's going to have to work for it. I don't think this will be a walk in the park. It's not going to be a cakewalk. I do think Tim should win the fight. I think Christine made a good point about Murtazaliev having to use his height and reach, definitely, because Tim was more of a mid-range to inside guy, but he does have a good jab. He knows how to start from the outside and work his way in pretty well. So I don't think this is an easy fight, as I said, but you got to take your hat off to Tim Tszyu because he just doesn't take easy fights, and he keeps busy. He fought 3 times last year. He probably would have fought 3 times this year if he didn't have that scalp injury. I mean, yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Not even disappointed. I think it's the audacity of Turki Al-Sheikh, like not understanding that Tim's not the guy that wants to fight once a year. Once every 10 months, to just sit there and believe that he's going to wait around till February and be off for like 10 months, 11 months, when that's just not how this guy moves. If you're working with a fighter, right? If you want to work with a fighter, you kind of got to understand, what their habits are, what their traits are, what their history is. And this is not a guy that you could just say, hey, wait around. I got this fight for you. It's just not how he works. Why waste prime years of your career? Already coming off the injury, and he wants to get back in there. Definitely wants to get back in there because, again, you have to hone your craft. And how do you do that? By fighting, right? You don't want to sit on the shelf. So I just found that a little bit disturbing, in my opinion, that he just sitting there. Like, okay, you wait around till February.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think, Virgil? Who's going to be ready? Is Virgil Ortiz going to be ready in February? I mean, he just came off of a tough fight. He could be. But does Virgil Ortiz want to jump right back in there with another tough fight like this after being in a tough fight prior? Again, boxing has a lot of moving parts. So just to sit there and think that you can move these guys around like chess pieces on a board, it's not always going to happen that way. So you got to kind of respect the fighters a little bit too here, and just not expect them to just cowtail to your every whim. So I'm starting to see that side to him. And no disrespect to Dana White, but Dana White kind of has that attitude. I was hearing Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou was saying, like, well, if you get injured, during a fight and you have a specific fight deal with him, that if you sign for that fight, he adds another fight. If you get injured, plot a fight, he adds another fight to your contract. Like these are kind of like predatorial type things to me. I don't like seeing fighters get screwed over like this. I just don't.
No.
And
they're just a number. They're just a number to these guys. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, just to add some context and cheap plug, people will check out the interview on my channel with Glenn Jennings. We talk about quite a few things there, but you go to the 45-minute mark. That's when we start talking about the whole thing. Just to be clear, the Team Tszyu team, and this goes all the way to the promoter, Matt Rhodes as well, were very confused as to why Turkey was mad to begin with, because they weren't rude or anything. They just told them, no, thank you. We're not going to wait till February. We have something else going on, but we'll do business next year if you want. And for whatever reason, Turkey got mad. Like, I don't know. Like, it's whatever.
It's because rich people are not used to hearing the word no. That's why.
What about no thank you?
They don't. No habla.
Kiss the ring and do what I say.
That's right. Haven't you ever worked for anybody? Haven't you ever had a client, you know, who holds the purse strings? And yeah, some people have the freedom and the cojones to say no, and some don't. And some decide, you know, I'm going to eat it because I got to pay my bills or I've got to support my family.
Yep.
You know, props to the ones who have the freedom, the ability to say no, or just the principles to say no. I'm going to conduct my life the way I want to.
It's so funny too, because you could say yes 20 times, but say no once, and the person forgets all the other times you said yes. So I've seen some situations in this. I don't want to get too deep into it, but in this city, because I work for a municipality, I see it happen every day.
There you go.
You bend over backwards for people, and then one time you can't do it for them. Oh, you're trash.
If you've ever worked in customer service, hospitality, or retail, you've all had that experience of don't you know who I am?
Yep.
Correct.
Well, I mean, it is what they're just like, hey man, what's doing this? We don't even know why he's mad. Like, what's going on? But it is what it is. Dave, what do you think of the matchup? It's gonna be over in Florida. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I love the matchup, and I want to give flowers to Team Tszyu and No Limit Boxing for following their gut and their instinct. Originally, he was supposed to fight Virgil Ortiz, right? For nothing, just for glory, I suppose. Now he puts himself right back into a title opportunity to be a world champion again against a very tough opponent.
I'm sure he was getting paid too, David.
Yeah, but you know what? Titles, I can tell that to Tim Tszyu that titles mean a lot, just like they meant a lot to his father and his father's legacy. They matter. Belts matter to some people. The old school fighters, it matters. He puts himself right back into a position to be a champion at the 154-pound division. He brings something to the table now to the Fundora rematch that we all want to see. And by the way, I really wish this fight was in Las Vegas. I thought it was a spectacular bloodbath right here in Las Vegas. I would love to see the Fundora rematch right here. There's a lot of things going on in this weight division. I'm really dismayed to hear that Terrence Bud Crawford potentially wants to retire if he doesn't get the fight with Canelo, which I think I think it's silly because I think he's got a lot left to prove, and I think he could do something that nobody's done, which is become undisputed in yet another division in just 2 fights. He's got an opportunity. The WBO is presenting him that mandatory position to fight the Towering Inferno. And then all he has to do is fight the winner of this Tim Tszyu fight, and he's cleaned up another division. That's my fantasy. I want to see him do something spectacular like that. I think that would really get the attention of Canelo Alvarez, too, for both of those to finally fight under those circumstances. Now, for Tim Tszyu, he's got a really tough fight in front of him. These Eastern European fighters don't have a lot of fanfare. They don't get a lot of attention, but you see what happens with fighters like Pacheko, who was on that Tim Tszyu fight card and came right back to fight Virgil Ortiz. And in many people's eyes, and I see people in the chat here who were at the fight, probably thought he should have walked away with that victory potentially, right? And that's because of activity. Because Bahram has been relatively inactive in the past 24 months, I'm going to favor Tim Tszyu to walk away with this IBF championship.
All right. It should be a good fight. And for those wondering, the reason it's in Florida, the fight, they tried to get the fight in Australia, but there was some issues with that. For some reason, somebody in Bekham team couldn't go to Australia or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know what the issues with that, but it's whatever. But they go to Florida. Okay, cool. But anyway, maybe they had parking tickets in Australia. I don't know. Look, Tank versus Rayo Valenzuela. It's been rumored, okay? And I have my opinion about it, but I wonder what the panel thinks, because Rayo, as you guys know, defeated Isaac Cruz by decision. I thought he boxed a great fight. I thought it was a really good fight, by the way. Rayo won. So, like, I actually like the fight. I think Rayo Valenzuela versus Tank Davis, at 140 is a good fight. I understand that there's criticisms of Tank because he wouldn't fight Ryan at 140. He wouldn't go and fight Devin Haney at 140. He wanted them to come down to 135. Whatever the case is, but he was willing to do it for Mario Barrios. I get all that, but if I just judge the fight just by itself, Rayo Valenzuela versus Tank Davis for the belt at 140, I actually think it's a good fight. I know I'm probably in a minority when it comes to that, but I just want to know what you guys think. Crystal, is this a good fight? Is that a fight you like, or do you pass on that?
I don't pass on any fights. I'm a nerd like that, okay? I have to watch it. But I will say that do it interest me to the level that I wish to be ringside? Not necessarily. I think this will be an easy fight for Tink. I don't think Rayo will have a lot to bring to the ring against Tink. Tink is just a special fighter. He truly is. And I was not a Tink fan for a while. His professional career do not impress me until just the last few years. So I do believe that Tink will take care of Rayo, and if that happens, so be it. I think there are other people I wish to see against Tink, but Rayo, perhaps he deserves it at this point. So I will never take that away from him either. So,
okay, Christine, is that a fight you like, or you're like, you know what, I like some other options?
You know what, I do like this fight. I do like this fight because I think Rayo is very talented. He really caught my eye, and whenever he fought Colbert, like that really solidified him for me. He's a little bit taller than Tank. I think about 5 inches. Their range is about the same. They're both southpaw. I like this fight because honestly, for Rayo, this is a win-win. Even if he loses, I believe he's going to do well enough that he's going to get bigger opportunities. We know Tank is a power puncher. He's sneaky. He's agile. His ring IQ is amazing. But I see Rayo coming up too in the rankings. I see him looking really good, and I like this fight. I do. I'm not against it at all. I'm kind of excited about it.
Okay, all right, okay. Calix, right on time. As you know, the guy who beat that beast, the beast of a man, Isaac Cruz, Pitbull, like the beast, the Pitbull, like, you know what I mean? Like, where's Gil's dogs at? I need their help right now. You know what I mean? I need support from the dogs. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. So Rayo against Tank Davis. I already know your answer, but is that a good fight to you?
It's okay. Like, are we all the way down to this? Really? Like, this dude gets so many passes. Is Shakur available? Was he available? He's not anymore, but he was, right? And he's not going to fight that fight. Why? Why can't we get that fight? I know he tried to fight Lomachenko, but he's been avoiding Lomachenko for 5 to 7 years. So all of a sudden he can fight Lomachenko, right? But Shakur was right there. Why is he getting a pass? And they're tougher fighters at 140. This is for a 140 belt. There are tougher fighters at 140 than Rayo, right? So why not fight those guys? Why does this guy get so many passes? I don't understand. Like, if you came up with a list of 10 fighters that you want to see Tank fight, would Rayo land on that list, really? Or a top 5, would he land on that? No, but of course he's going to get a pass because Tank gets all up. Tank is the most privileged fighter in the sport. I'm so done with this. I'm so tired of talking about this dude. Fight somebody. For the love of God, fight somebody, man. It's a decent fight. It's a decent fight, but they're going to charge you for it, too. Is Rayo really a pay-per-view B-side? Come on. What is this?
Okay. Well, I think Rayo's a somebody.
I mean, he beat your boy Isak. I know all 4'11" of them, but like that lands you the shot.
We don't need to hide this from here, okay?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Okay.
We apologize to all the short people out there.
Yeah, what's going on right now? You know what I mean?
I don't like.
Everyone under 5 feet tall. It's like right now they're like listen to
and
the
that's
show.
no
Like,
disrespect. It's no disrespect to Rayo. It's just like, come on, like when's somebody gonna ask this dude to fight the fights that are in have been in play for years? And then you got these dudes who skip to the front of the line. It reminds me of when like Floyd was doing his thing where all of a sudden Maidana came out of nowhere. All of a sudden Robert Guerrero came out of nowhere, and he got this long list of fighters at 147 who we rather see, but then it's Maidana, and then it's Robert Guerrero. It's like, come on, man, fight the guys at 135.
Okay.
I'm happy for Rayo. You know, if Tank is going to take this path and he's been taking it, you know, I'm happy for Rayo. He's getting an opportunity to really showcase his skill. And like I said before, even if he loses, which, I mean, we know what's going to happen, it's a win for him. It is a win-win for him. So if this is the route that they're both going to take, good for Rayo.
I'm going to shock a lot.
He trains in the gym every day. He does everything that all these boxers do, the sacrifices. You know what? Give him his money. Give him his shine.
That's right. You see the opportunities that Pitbull Cruz opens up for people. You know what I mean? People give no credit. Hey, Gail, give us your take here. Rayo versus Tank. Is that a fight you'll pass on, or do you like the fight?
Sorry for that delay. A little internet problem. Hey, listen. Would you rather Tank sit on his ass than take this fight? Right? Is that the better option? No. So why are you complaining about this? He can only fight who's willing and available. And the problem is with guys who don't have a loss is that they are so worried about the risk versus reward ratio that they judge every matchup that way. Now, the benefit, if you want to look at it that way, is, Rayo has already popped that loss cherry. He has a loss. So he's, it's not this painful. And it emboldens a fighter a little bit. So he's willing to take the fight. A loss, he's already found out. A loss isn't fatal. He came back with a big win, and he's willing to press forward and take a chance on himself and bet on himself. And I will watch a fighter willing to do that every day of the week. Now, the separate discussion about what you have to pay for it, I'm going to set that aside, and that is something a fan has to decide. But if your favorite fighter is Tank Davis, you want to see him, this is what you get. Because this is the way he conducts himself, and this is the way his top opponents conduct themselves. So you have to make the decision in that universe. Am I going to save my money for something else? Am I going to deny myself watching because I'm going to have a little tantrum over it because I didn't get what I want? You're not the guy in the ring. And
at what point do we get what we want? I'm confused. Because it's been 11, 12 years.
When they sign the contract.
When they sign thank you very much. I will
you got fighters who have been begging for that fight. This dude has every fight on the board, and he's the face of boxing. So fight somebody. Good Lord.
You know what?
How many passes does this dude get? Good Lord.
It's not to watch and not to pay for it. That's the power you have as a consumer.
And he'll do about 200,000 pay-per-view buys again.
Watching and stop talking about him, and then they will need to take that input from the consumer. Just like selling any product, it either moves off the shelves at the right price, or it doesn't, and they adjust, or they die. That's the way it goes. You have no power other than that as the consumer to pay or not pay. You can't bitch and complain and advise them. We're not in that position. You know what? We make the suggestions, they make the decisions. That's the bottom line.
Yep. Ain't that right?
All right. However, I will say, Gail, I mean, we can criticize if we want to, and they listen because it hurts their feelings, and they ran about it on Twitter and all that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it hurts their
feelings. And I do think,
hurting their feelings.
Well, yeah, well, no, it does. They ran about it.
It obviously does. Believe me, it obviously does.
And they go behind the scenes.
Ask the people who have been doxxed by that team.
Me
They'll
too.
go to
Okay?
they'll ask their managers to contact content creators and don't say
Good
this,
Lord.
don't say that.
People need to wake up, man. Like, good Lord.
Like they do listen to a certain degree. It's a very small community.
And all they do is get online and respond, but they keep doing what they're doing, business as usual.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Ain't it sad? And more people keep leaving American boxing. Less fans because of it.
And that's exactly what Gail said when
No,
they
but here's the thing: not every fighter though.
It's what's
Not
coming. You're gonna have
fighter.
nobody to write to in America. You're gonna have nobody to write to.
You know what? That we are so U.S. centric, right? Boxing is flourishing in a lot of parts of the world, and God
It is.
bless.
That's the point, Gail.
But it ain't
That's the
flourishing
point.
here, and there's a
But
reason why.
So what? You know what? We need to get over the idea that the U.S. is the center of the boxing.
We
universe.
are. We are. We've been
Not.
talking about it. We are.
No, we are not.
And
Hardly.
we've been talking about why it's no longer America centric because of stuff
that's
like
right.
this.
No
and we've been told to stop bitching and complaining. So that's why people leave. Just saying.
Things, you know what? History moves and things change, and the world
Oh, yeah.
changes, and you either adjust or you don't. And
Oh,
if
yeah.
people want to follow another sport, they're going to. If American fighters want to bring it back, they need to think about their choices. If
So
they don't,
before I go to Dave, what I will say this: I don't agree with you're not in their team. You're not like you don't get to tell them what to do. No, I do believe that fans do have a voice, and fans have a right to express their opinion, and content creators have a right to express their opinions. And I do think pressure put on fighters does at times has made fights happen. I do believe we have some type of influence, because if we don't, who are the only ones putting money in their pockets? So where's the money coming from? It's coming from the fans. That's who buys the pay-per-views. That's who supports. That's who bothers covering the events. That's who buys tickets to the events. The fans absolutely have a right to voice their opinion. And in other countries, fans are not treated the way they're treated in America, and that's why American boxing is in the shit. That's why it's in the dumpster.
I'll tell you why. Because there is less competition for their sports dollar. In Mexico, the only competition for boxing by the fans is soccer. In the UK, it's the same. And, maybe cricket or some crazy ass thing like that. In the United States, we are battling the NFL, the NBA, UFC, baseball to a much lesser extent, and women's sports.
Well, Gail, I mean, let's look at Canada. UFC is huge in Canada. Hockey is big in Canada. Canadian football is big in Canada. However, their boxers don't talk to the fans the way boxers in the United States do, right? And they get a lot of support in Montreal.
But look at the level of where boxing has settled in Canada. It's at a very comfortable level, but it is not at a world-class upper tier level. It's a healthy niche sport, but it's not.
What is it here?
And also, Gail said this: when we stop paying, when we stop putting money in their pocket, words don't mean shit. Tweets don't mean shit. When we decide we're not going to pay for these pay-per-views,
that has happened. That's right. Like they're not telling
but
people.
Obviously, it's not enough to hurt their pockets because they're still getting that check with all those zeros. Okay,
they're getting those checks because dudes like Kirk Al-Sheik are coming in and putting money in their pocket.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, but it's not because it's not. It's like the catch-22 is this. All right. There has been a negative effect because of the popularity of the sport has been affected.
No denying that.
Okay, so that's the effect.
But what I'm saying is it's not enough to force these athletes to fight people that we as fans want them to fight. They're going to fight who they
Not every boxer is like that. If you talk to I don't get the sense that he doesn't want to give the fans the fights that they want. If you talk to Navarrete, I don't get that sense. Like there's plenty of boxers that I don't get the sense that they don't give a fuck about the boxing.
The crazy thing about it is 200,000 pay-per-view buys still generates $16 million. So it's I mean, and if you're getting a $2 million guarantee, you're getting a percentage of that. It's you're still making. again, these guys are still making. I don't think this model is going away anytime soon.
It's not.
It's
not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
So here's the thing. Before I go to Dave, I apologize, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
It's been a good conversation. Sorry, but here's the thing. I personally, this is my opinion. I happen to like Rayo versus Tank. That's my opinion. However, other Tank fight, I thought the Martin fight was trash. I think there's plenty of other fights he's done that I don't think were relative that good. Right here's the kicker. Okay, you can make your money. You could do whatever you want. Right. But what you can demand is that people put you on pound for pound list, that people have opinions of you that are positive. Right. Okay. So that's what they want. Right. That's why Tank's team doesn't let people in the media that criticizes Tank go cover his event sometimes.
That's their choice.
I understand that's their choice, but like right. it's because they're butthurt that they're not getting the coverage that they want. They want to manufacture coverage, right? So all I'm saying is you can't manufacture people's opinions. If people don't like something, they're going to say it. It's the way it is. That's the way of the world.
Yeah,
they're going to say I don't like that, and yes, you're right. They do speak with the dollars and their cents, which is why a lot of Americans are not following the sport of boxing. That's why we have pretty good fight cards where the arenas are half empty. Like in some cases.
That.
So it is what it is. Hey, Dave.
Yo.
If you want to send it, Rayo Tank, is that a fight you like?
It's a fight I absolutely like. In the context of what's going on in the lightweight division, which is a freaking circus right now, you got none of these top champions wanting to negotiate in earnest and make a fight, a unification fight. You don't even have William Zepeda, who's a mandatory number one for everybody, willing to jump in with any of the champions. He'd rather fight Cambosos or somebody else in the meantime. I don't get it. You don't see Andy Cruz jumping at the opportunity to fight. You don't see Keyshawn Davis saying, hey, Tank, fight me. You don't see any of these guys with unblemished records wanting to fight a champion. In the context of that, and the fact that we've seen Tank Davis perform at 140 at an elite level. I'm going to give you guys a quick story. Earlier this year, I ran into Brian Mendoza and Mario Barrios, interviewed both of them side by side. I stand about 5'11", where I used to. Mario Barrios is taller than his best friend, Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza, who knocked out the towering Inferno. Not only is he taller, his shoulders are broader, and his back is wide, unbelievably wide. And yet, little Tank Davis stopped him for his title.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's really amazing that he can do that. Now, as far as Rayo, let's give him his flowers. It was the best fight on that recent Riyadh season in Los Angeles. He performed to his full potential under the tutelage of Robert Garcia. This is finally we see what he's fully capable of, and you can't ask for anything more than to be a world champion. He executed a perfect game plan. He was completely disciplined the entire time. And that Rayo is going to present problems for Tank Davis. It makes sense. He beat the guy who gave arguably Tank his best fight, which was Pitbull Cruz. He beat the guy. He outclassed him. It's a good fight. Is Rayo, who fought at 135, who got into a slugfest with De Los Santos, is that a good fight against Tank? No, that guy gets knocked out in 7 rounds or less. But the one we just saw presents a very good fight. And I would argue that if Tank beats him, that I could see Tank even beating Leon Parle and maybe even setting up a super fight with Teofimo Lopez, who's begging for a big payday. To be honest, I really think Tank Davis could compete against some of the very best at 140.
Okay.
I like that.
Babe, Rayo Valenzuela against Tank Davis. What do you think?
I got mixed emotions about the fight because here's the thing. Rayo had a masterful performance against Isaac Cruz. He was a big underdog, 3.5 to 1 underdog, and he fought a beautiful fight. So he earned this fight with that performance. There's no question about it. You know, he became the champion. I didn't think he had a shot, and that's no disrespect. He's a great fighter. I just thought it was a horrible style matchup for him, and he proved me wrong. So I don't want to take this opportunity. I don't want to throw any shade on him because he earned a big fight like this off of that performance. So I'm kind of glad that he got that. The thing that's weird to me is why this fight came out of nowhere. Why is Tank going up to 140? is just kind of weird. I know they wanted to fight Lomachenko, and Lomachenko decided that they're going to take some time off. And I would have liked the Shakur fight instead of this fight, because we've been hearing like Leonard Ellaby and other people in Tank's camp say how small he is, and he shouldn't be going. He's really a lightweight. I don't know why. These guys want him to go up to 140 when guys like Tszyu call him out, and when Devin wanted to fight him at 142. So it's just weird the way they move sometimes, but I don't think it's a horrible fight. I think, as Dave said, Isaac Cruz gave Tank a great fight. And I think if Rayo decides to, box on the outside, which he can do, right? If he fights a really smart, methodical type fight and doesn't get lulled into something like a walk into a big counter shot, and if he just keeps his distance and doesn't lean in with anything and doesn't let Tank bait him in, he can make this fight interesting. So I don't hate the fight. I just think it's weird because you hear so much conflicting information from Tank's team, like he's too small for this division, but he'll move up for the right fight, which is what most guys like. Sugar Ray Leonard fought Donnie Lalonde. He didn't fight Andres. You know what I mean? So I understand. I get it, but it's just weird. I would like to see a Lomachenko or Shakur fight or a Zepeda fight somewhere down the line, and I just don't think that we're probably going to get that. Maybe we might get a Lomachenko fight. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if Tank fights. If Lomachenko comes back and fights, I'm sure he'll probably take a comeback fight, and then maybe later next year he could fight Shakur. If Tank fought the winner of that fight, then I'd be very happy.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, it's just a rumor fight. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. So we'll see where it goes. And if it happens and if it doesn't, then we'll kind of judge it accordingly. So we got one more topic here. And it's been the talk of the week. I mean, this has been an ongoing thing. It spiraled in all sorts of directions. Norman Jr. turned down. I'm hearing different reports, but the last one I read was $1.7 million to fight Boots. And then after this, Matchroom loses the purse bid for Boots versus Karen, which is a fight I can't even believe we're talking about, but here we are. And this whole thing is one of the craziest things I've seen in a while. So Norman Jr. turns down what would be his biggest payday, right? And then after the purse bid is lost, his dad does a video laughing at Matchroom and saying that they're vindicated and that you see that they just all they do is lowball everybody. So it's just a very interesting, like it's like all over the place. But Norman Jr., Boots Ennis, the whole saga, the whole enchilada. What do you make of it, Joe B? Let's start with you.
Yeah, it seems bizarre to me. I mean, I don't know, $1.7 million is a lot of money. What does Norman Jr. do now moving forward? Who else can he fight to make that amount of money? So, I mean, I don't like counting people's pockets. I'm not a manager, but I'm not a promoter. But 1.7 seems like a lot of money. And I from what I heard, I don't know how true this is. I believe they were going 50-50. I think they were saying Boots was only going to get around the same amount of money too. So I don't know what the expectations were. I heard another rumor that he wanted a $2 million even. Again, these are all rumors, but this is a head scratcher. I have to be honest. This is a head scratcher because I know he's not going to make anywhere near $1.7 million fighting anyone else in this division. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Gail, what do you make of this whole saga? I mean, people got a little excited. We might get a unification, and it didn't happen.
Risk versus reward. Every fighter judges risk versus reward. We've seen certain fighters over the years who just can't get decent opponents because they aren't big enough draws, famous enough for somebody to earn enough money against them to risk a loss. Golovkin, perfect example. He's been criticized for years about lack of opposition. Well, no one wanted to go in there and get crushed by him when he wasn't, a world tier fighter. He eventually got there, but not early, not early. The only leverage Brian Norman Jr. has is that belt. That's it. So he has to decide, if I'm going to face Boots Ennis and have a better than average chance of losing the only leverage and the only earning power I have, it's got to be worth my while. And he decided it wasn't. When he started looking at, I'm going into a fight in a state where I'm going to get a tax hit and so on and so forth. His management team is very calculating. They are ruthless business managers. Adrian Clark's one of the smartest money guys in boxing and very underrated as far as that goes. And he listened to him. So the question about, well, where can he go to make that kind of money? Well, he can't make it on one fight, but he also doesn't have to risk the belt. So maybe he fights 2 or 3 easy fights to make that kind of money and guarantee he hangs on to the belt. That's, again, a decision fans don't like. So they get to vote whether they want to watch him or not, whether they want to follow him or not, whether they want to go see his fights, buy a ticket, buy the merch. And eventually the risk versus reward shuffles, and then they make another decision. But right now he decides, I take the fight with Boots. More likely than not, I could lose. I start all the way back down at the bottom. I roll all the way back downhill. What's that worth to me? And the price tag is high. It's really high, right? And for whatever reason, Boots' team decided, no, we don't need that unification at this price tag, right? It's not enough for us. It's just too much for us to pay. On the other side of the coin, Norman Jr. says, no, this is not enough for me. And here we are. So that's, the fans then get to decide where it goes from here. And it happens every day in boxing. It's just, there wasn't anything else for us to talk about. And all the players involved decided they were going to yap and have it out in public. So we're talking about it. But these calculations are made all the damn time.
Gail, he turned down 1.7 million to fight Boots. They're gonna, they decide not to take the fight. What do you make of it?
Well, you just asked me that question. I think you may have.
I'm sorry, Crystal. I apologize.
By the way, his take would have been a little under $800,000
after he paid the 20%.
After he paid all his team, after he paid the taxes and the 20%. Yeah.
Right.
How much does it take when he made 100,000? Like 50,000?
But again, his leverage is belt. He makes nothing without the belt. So what does it matter?
Unfortunately, what happened if he lose that belt?
And I apologize. I meant to say Crystal.
On Keyshawn's card. So this, okay, strategic, not strategic. Let me tell you, there's a lot to this one, right? So my favorite fighter, most of us know who that is, was being told for many years, you only 60-40, you only 80-20 in that fight, because this is a fight we all want to see. Now you have to wait, you have to wait, you have to wait. I'm not taking that fight because I know my worth, right? I will make the money I want to make when the time is right, right? Clearly, he have to wait longer than he wished to wait. And there wasn't a promoter out there to make that fight. It was actually the 2 boxers to make the fight themselves, right? So one side of it is never try to tell a boxer what he worth or the management company, right? The other side is, unfortunately, this don't happen to my favorite fighter. He don't be on the undercard of another boxer's card, right? So, and at that low of a price. So to say that his management team have completely thrown away a 1.7, we won't know until the future. What will happen? Because if Boots don't stay there, he won't make, as Gail say, he will probably not make the same money with another fighter at 147. He probably will not. So he will have to fight 2 or 3, 4. What happens if he get injured? What happens if he can't make those 2 or 3 or 4 fights? Then he is. This is in the long run. This is a terrible choice. But we don't know at this point until that happened, right? So I can't tell you what he worth is. He feels 2 million, right? That's what he wants. And to be fair, in the world right now, that is not a lot of money for a boxer. It's just not. When we're talking at 147 and 154, those weight classes right now, they are making money. They've been making money. So 1.7, I think only the future and only the time will tell what will happen here, and it will be very clear. I don't think this will be like, oh, I don't know. Nah, this will be a clear. This management team will know whether they make the right choice in this situation or not. I think it won't come, maybe 6 months.
It's a gamble either way, because you could take one of those lesser fights, and then if you lose them, then you got to go back to the line again.
Exactly. What if you lose on the Keyshawn card? That would freak me out.
So that's the thing.
Well, that karma, she's a bitch, right? I mean, you have the fans out there, they'll give him hell if he does, but they all have to make these calculations and these decisions all the time. This one just, it was just the timing and the forces and the fans' appetite for news, kind of made it a perfect storm of discussion. But these are the decisions they make every day.
His dad was very vocal about it too. You can't. It
was all over the Twitter.
His dad. Man, and again, to your point,
and
Gail,
Norman's manager. They're all negotiating in public, and that doesn't always happen.
Well, but maybe to your point, Gail, this is all part of the plan that they're just trying to get more attention by turning this fight down, and then kind of complaining about it and getting people talking about the whole situation, and maybe they can get more down the road.
That is such a good point, Joe. I actually sent a message to Norman's manager, Jolene Mazzone, who many of you know, saying, is this your diabolical, sneaky publicity plan for everyone?
That's what it could be. Again, I'm looking at 1.7, and
But we are all talking about him, and who knew him before he fought and beat Shatian? Very few people.
And we've been down this road before, where someone would say, "Why'd you turn this down?" And then maybe a year later, the guy gets double what he turned down.
We've seen. I guess that's a gamble. That's what it is, because I've seen both sides. I've seen both sides of it. Completely backfire. Like Juan Lascano turned down a big payday to fight Floyd, and he gambled, and he fought Jose Luis Castillo for far less money, got his ass beat, and never saw a payday like that. So it's a gamble.
It's a gamble.
It is what it is.
It's calculated risk.
Why you would fight Jose Luis Castillo for like 10 times less, I have no idea. But it's not here nor there. Christine, what do you make of this whole saga? Like, what? Do you side with Brian Jr.'s team? Like, did they make the right choice? Did they not make the right choice?
Ooh, okay, this is a very sticky and personal on many levels.
It's not that personal, but they made it public.
Oh, it is personal, because I have personal dealings with some of them, so it is personal. So I love and respect Jolene. I think she's fabulous. I have dealings with AC. Okay. So I'm higher on Brian Norman than I am Boots. I question Boots the way some of you, question Tank. Like others have said, it is a gamble. Either the management team, they're either geniuses in doing this because they know something that we don't know, or they've totally fumbled. It is a 50-50, very risky gamble. I want to see Norman succeed, and I hope they made the right move. But that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Before we go to Calix, you know how I feel about it? I'll sum it up with this. Tell me you don't think you're going to beat Boots without telling me that you don't think you could beat Boots. That's what I think. If that was Camboza's offering a 1.7 million, oh, they would have taken that thing like this, boom. They would have taken it immediately, right? If that was anybody, they would have taken that money. They would have taken half. Okay. The reality is, you can make the decision you want, whatever it is. You obviously don't think you could beat Boots. Because if you did, you would become a unified champion. You would get the cloud of beating Boots, and now you're in a much better position. But they're seeing the risk. The risk is, yeah, we don't think we can win that fight, so we're gonna have to strategize a different way. We're gonna have to maneuver a different way to avoid that fight. So some fans don't like the word ducking. Okay, I'm not gonna use it, but it is what it is. I hear quacking, but I'm not gonna call it a duck. Okay, I'm not saying there's a duck there. It's your quack, but I'm not saying it's a duck. All right. It means to me that you're maneuvering around that fight because you don't like. Okay, that guy. I fought Santillan for 100,000, but I'm not going to fight that dude for 1.7 million. Deductions and my team and taxes. Like you know what I mean. So all of a sudden, so the way I see it, they don't believe. They're not very confident they beat Boots. Is the way I feel.
You make me sick right now with that. That is disgusting what you just say. I can't believe that.
Why is Boots willing to fight him for that money?
Well, why do you think? Well, why do you feel like Brian Norman won't take $1.7 million because he don't have confidence he can beat Mr. Boots? Come on now.
He fought Santillan for 100,000.
But you think
he's going to fight somebody else for far less?
I understand, but look at my favorite fighter. Take this for an example. You think Bud think for 1 second he not fixing to beat Spence? No, hell no.
Well, it wasn't Bud holding up that fight.
That was not Bud holding up that fight.
One belt gives you leverage, but 2 belts gives you even more leverage.
So all I'm saying is,
yeah, but Beeb, he's old enough. He's old enough to be a champion. He's not old enough to unify, apparently.
But let's go to Calix. Your thoughts on this saga?
It's ridiculous. It's more American boxing. It's why people continue to leave. And you know a fighter doesn't want to fight when obstacles come into play and you start to hear about them, right? So this is have you ever heard of a fighter bringing up net instead of gross and pre-tax, post-tax? Have you ever heard that? Like, I mean, what is this? What is this? This is why we love boxing elsewhere. Is we don't hear about this stuff in Japanese boxing. We don't hear this stuff from the Australian fighters. This is more American boxing. And as a fan, I can't complain about it. Unfortunately, I just have to take it or leave. That's all we can do. I don't know. That's all we can do. So
what I want to know is why
we're all the way down. We're all the way down to marinating Boots versus Norman Jr. 2 guys who nobody in America would even recognize if they're walking around in malls. Come on, like what is this? This is ridiculous.
True, that is true. Although I would say I'm sure Floyd had these discussions and we just don't remember.
Yeah. They all do it though. So I mean, I'm not saying I'm not justifying it, but I've almost become like numb from it all. I understand where Gil's coming from because when you've been watching the sport for so like what's his name? Aaron Pryor turned down 500,000 to fight Sugar Ray Leonard back. What was that, Gil, in the 80s, right? And
how far along was he, B?
Very good. Yeah, absolutely.
He was champion at 140.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. fought 6 times in '98, 2 years into his career, was Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year, beats Enero Hernandez, unifies within 2 months against Angel Manfredi, and we're down to talking about Boots versus Norman Jr. and a dude turning down 1.7 million, 17 times what he made before. This is how much they've destroyed this market to where people are explaining this away. This could not be explained away. This is ridiculous. Absolutely. Look at what they've done to our beautiful sport in America. Good Lord.
Let's talk about the markets. Are you saying the market Floyd operated in as a young fighter is the same today with 2 major networks missing with the advent of streaming, you're saying that that landscape hasn't radically changed between now and then? We're talking about two completely different situations. I'm not defending, by the way, Norman or Boots, but I'm saying that Floyd existed in a completely different context than these guys do today.
Floyd
We
was
do
not
have
making
to
anywhere
feel-
near the money in '98 that these guys are making. They're gonna. This is the point that D-Style was trying to make. This is the point. This is the point. No, even adjusted for inflation. This is the point that D-Style was trying to make away. All of these moves, it's all artificially priced up. Turkey's going to come in, pay these guys. Eddie's going to come in and pay these guys artificial market, and we have no voice in it because even if we walk away, they're going to artificially price Norman Jr. making whatever he's going to make.
That's right.
Fighting
And
3
there
easy
is
fights,
a
and it's going to be
nugget-
explained away.
There's a nugget of something really crucial we cannot miss in what you just said. Turkey Al Sheikh is paying these wildly inflated prices because the Saudi government is not in the business of boxing to make a profit. They are in the business of boxing to change hearts and minds about their country and the attitudes towards tourism and investment in Saudi Arabia. It's a completely different business proposition. Hold on, let me finish. So he's paying these crazy good paychecks to these fighters who agree to take them, whether they have any moral objections or not, or any concerns or not. You know what? I get it. That's a lot of money. They're fighting for money. I begrudge no fighter taking that paycheck. It sets up these crazy, unrealistic expectations for every other promoter out there who does need to make a profit to pay their people, to stay in business, to keep the lights on, to pay the property taxes on their office, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And eventually, if everybody runs to the light of these big inflated paychecks without the need to make a profit, the rest of these small promoters will die. And does everyone really think that's a good thing for boxing? I'm one of the few that says out loud, no, it is not. No, not in the long term, it is not.
Boxing
So
in America.
So you're making the case that it's a better market for the fighters. So
I'm making the case that the fighters are getting better money now.
Exactly.
Down the line, do they care whether the market collapses if they've gotten theirs? No, they don't. But the generation after them is going to be in a world of hurt.
Well, I look.
I bet you
I'll
next
say
year.
this.
I bet you next year, Brian Norman's going to get $2 million for this fight. Turkey's going to give it to him. Turkey's going to give it.
And look, and that's probably why he's holding off. Like it just is what it is.
Someone probably said something to him. I think Gail's right. I think
my question to you, Beeb, is that a good thing?
For me, no. For him, yes.
Right.
Is it a good thing for boxing? For the sport?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Because we're gonna get Joshua versus Dubois. We're getting Fury versus Usyk. We're getting Bivol versus Better Beef. It's hard to complain when you're getting those fights. So going back to what I said before, you can tell a guy yes 1,000 times. You tell him no one time, and the guy don't like you anymore. So it's hard for me to complain too much. I can still complain a little bit, but I can't complain too much because this schedule this year has been a monster. And the year before was no slouch either. So I have to look at the total picture, right? And this has been an A year for boxing, if I'm being honest. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but if I touch on what Gil said, because I agree with something she said, I don't think this is sustainable. And as someone, I want to watch boxing when my hair's all gray and I'm old and I'm an old fart and shit. I still want to watch the sport and enjoy it.
And the market will do a reset, like it always does.
Maybe
the market will do a reset.
The market may not exist at all. So that's the question we all need to ask ourselves.
We're just assuming that it's going to be good. Don't worry, boxing.
I think internationally we'll be okay because we have these apps and we can watch these fights in the UK. We can watch these fights in Japan.
Yeah, it'll be
We can watch
booming.
these
I
fights.
agree that it's going to be booming.
I don't think it's going to die in these other
places.
countries, Gail. That's my optimistic look.
Right, but hasn't the whole discussion been about the United States and their fighters?
I'm with you. I gave up on the United States, Gail. I gave up on the United States. I was watching.
My point is this. I guess my whole thing is this. Before I go to Shoeshine here, okay? These fighters know. Well, if I just hold on to this belt, eventually that rich Saudi is going to give me my bag. So why am I going to say yes to you, Eddie? If you're the dude that gives you the money, that pays for premium fights, is going to eventually offer me the money I want. Don't get me wrong, I would do it too if I was in Brian Norman Jr.'s shoes. I would say I'm just going to hold on to this belt. However, I'm not in their shoes. I'm a fan. I want to watch these fights. I want to watch the best possible fights, right? And just because other fighters are doing great, just because Usyk has been a great ambassador for the sport, a great champion, has been fighting on the road, a lot of the American fighters are not willing to do what Usyk did. So I'm not going to say, oh, well, look, we're getting Usyk versus Fury, so therefore I'm not going to complain about what these guys are doing. Or like Inoue is doing a lot of great things, so I'm not going to complain about what these guys are doing. No, the guys that are doing great things, okay, it doesn't give a green light and a pass to the dudes that aren't doing great things. Like, I'm still going to criticize the ones that aren't doing great things, right? It's the way I feel about it. And to me, I'm not mad at the fighters or the teams, all right? I get upset with the people that reward this behavior, right? And then they turn around and they complain. And that's all they do. Espinosa on Showtime, he just tries to gaslight everybody. Like last year, oh yeah, we're doing everything right. It's just that we're not successful because the fans, you guys steal everything. And that's the reason we're not successful. No, that's it. That's not what it is.
Put too many fights on pay-per-view. That was your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was 100% the problem. Shoeshine, Norman Jr., Boots. What's going on? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I read with all due respect to Jolene, I read her statement very, very carefully. And people overplay their hands in negotiations in every facet of life all the time. Case in point, I bought this house 15 months ago. This was our second choice. I blew my wife's first choice. Happy wife, happy life. Over $5,000. Ended up paying more than $100,000 more for my second choice. Do you guys understand what you could do with $100,000 had I put that in the S&P 500 15 months ago? Do you understand what you could do with $800,000 invested in a corporate bond over 10 to 12 years? A steady income of $60,000, $70,000 a year. I bet you he hasn't made $60,000, $70,000 doing nothing. And he could have done that. But there's a real lack of financial literacy in pro athletes, especially in the sport of boxing.
Yep.
If he's only made $100,000 in his last fight, I doubt he has a certified financial planner. Yes, he has a great manager in Jolene Mazzoni, but quite frankly, I think they overplayed their hand. To go from 100,000 to 17 times your last fight and to pass, just no justification. I don't think he's making this in the welterweight division in 3 or 4 fights. And the truth of it is that Boots has an opportunity to move up into the most exciting division, which is 154. And he's going to easily get a $2 million payday in the 154-pound division. Does even Eddie Hearn have the best interests of Boots Ennis? From what I'm reading, should he, turn down this rematch with Karen, Boots Ennis is going to lose his title at 147. And potentially put Conor Benn in position for that very belt. So I don't even know if Eddie Hearn has the best interest of Boots Ennis. And I don't really know if the best interest for Brian Norman was kept in mind in that negotiation. I think 1.7 was a fantastic offer, and I'm disappointed he turned it down. And it just points to the direction that some of these young athletes really need to have a complete team around them when they get to this level. They need to have certified financial planners, they just need a whole team, because I think he fumbled the bag here.
Okay. You know, when a couple years ago in El Paso, there was a big hailstorm, right? And it messed up my roof, right? So the insurance company gave me a check. So then I had to hire a roofer to come fix it. You know what the roofer didn't do? He didn't ask me to cover his taxes. He didn't ask me to cover the expenses that he's gonna spend on his workers or any of that. He just said, "This is what I charge," and I paid him, and that is it, right? The reality is, it's not the promoter's job to know what you pay, like what you're going to pay in taxes, and if you give a cut to your team and to your coach and to your manager and a cut to the top, that's not his problem. But also the percentage you give to your manager is an agreement you made with your manager. That's between you and your manager, right? And all I know is that whole, I just didn't like the language being used. And I didn't like the arguments that we're making. I did think, our Boots made so much to fight Avanesian. We have a belt too, so we should be making the same. I just don't. That's just not how it works. It just isn't. And if you wanted to just hold off, then just hold off. Like, why are you going on all these podcasts and saying you were lowballed and all this other stuff? Like, just hold off for the payday. It's just spare me the. I know you're holding on. I know you're holding off, and you're waiting for Turkey to offer you the money, and just wait for the Saudi prince to give you the money and spare me like your sob story about you paying taxes and having deductions, because I have that shit too. Okay, I pay taxes. All right, like it is what it is. It's just a fact of life. And I make nowhere near that amount of money. Like it's whatever to me. All right. So that's my thoughts. This has been a great show. Any final thoughts before I wrap this one up? All right. I'm gonna wrap it up like it's Christmas. That's it. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. And we're out of here. Peace.